Today, Zimbabweans are celebrating National Heroes Day. While giving the keynote address in Harare, President Emmerson Mnangagwa said the occasion provides an opportunity to reflect back and pay special tribute to fallen heroes, those who fought for the independence of Zimbabwe. Mnangagwa urged citizens to remain united and be in line with the national vision to become a middle-income economy and increase investment. He also urged Zimbabweans to put their differences aside and work collectively to achieve this vision, which will also pave way for job creation. The president's call comes amid an election standoff which has halted his inauguration ceremony. On Friday, the opposition filed court papers challenging the July 30th poll, which the MDC alliance believes was rigged.
Honorable Vice President.
Now joining us in studio is Nqabutho Mabhena, General Secretary of the Zimbabwe Communist Party. A very warm welcome to you, sir, and thank you so much for your time.
Evening. Thank you for having me in the studio.
Now, let's talk about some of the challenges that the heroes had faced back then, and what is the significance of this day to Zimbabweans?
It is the heroes of our liberation struggle that fought for our independence. You will know that during the liberation struggle, we had two armies, ZCP, the armed wing of ZAPU, and then ZANLA, the armed wing of ZANU, who fought gallantly against the colonialism and the ordinary people of Zimbabwe that fought, particularly on the countryside, that gave shelter and food to the heroes of our struggle during that time. So it is an important day in our view, in that as Zimbabweans we need to celebrate and honor their selfless struggle against colonialism. We gained independence in 1980 thanks to their sacrifice.
And Zimbabwe heroes sacrificed a lot in the past, but now looking at where Zimbabwe is today, do you think they would be happy about how far the country has come so far?
Certainly not. Yes, they will be happy that we are no longer under colonial rule, but sad that we are now scattered all over the country. I mean South Africa, we are scattered all over the world. I mean South Africa, others are elsewhere. This is not what we fought for. Our economy is not doing well. We still, up to this day, cannot conduct an election that is acceptable by the generality of the people of Zimbabwe. Since 1980, we've had disputes around the question of the election. As we speak, there is still a dispute on the elections which was held on the 30th of July 2018. The struggle, though it was not really about holding an election, the struggle was about to regain or restore our dignity as an African people. It was about bringing back our land which was stolen, but we had to embrace democracy to say for us to move forward as a nation, we need to embrace democracy, and this means that we need to ensure that every citizen has a right to elect the leadership that we think should lead us. So this is why it is important that we hold a free and a fair election without any intimidation and any fear.
And this celebration is also an opportunity for Zimbabweans to remember the struggles they went through to recover freedom that they supposedly should be having, as you've also mentioned. Now, looking at how Zimbabwe removed Mugabe and looking at what he also did for the country when it comes to liberation, will he ever be seen as a hero despite his actions?
Well, Mugabe contributed to the liberation of our country in the 70s, 60s, 70s. He spent 10 years in prison. We recognize that it's a history that we cannot take away from him. When he came from Mozambique in 1980, he was a hero. He was met by thousands of Zimbabweans celebrating his heroic work. But he reversed all that when he became Prime Minister of an independent Zimbabwe. You know, from 1983 to 1987, the genocide that he committed against the people of Zimbabwe in the Matabeleland and Midlands region. You will also know the reversing of the economic development in our country. He adopted the neoliberal policies in 1991, which caused havoc in our economy. Thousands of workers losing their jobs. Today, at about 80% of the working people are in the informal sector. So while Mugabe became a hero in 1980, but he did not leave office in the manner in which he would have wanted to. So yes, he has a place in our history, but he is a man that, again, as the leader of his party, ZANU-PF, he failed to ensure a smooth transition or succession within his own party, to an extent that the military had to come in and remove him from power.
And now moving away from Mugabe and looking at Emmerson Mnangagwa, during the commemoration, he also had a speech that he delivered. He also had messages. What do you make of some of those messages that have been coming from Emmerson?
President Emmerson Mnangagwa makes his message under a very, very difficult environment.
Very true.
We are coming, just emerging from an election which is still being disputed. Our country is divided. 50% of the Zimbabweans would support the opposition. 50% of Zimbabweans support the ruling party. So he is leading a nation which is divided. We don't know what the courts are going to say in terms of his declaration as the winner of the elections in July. Even if Emmerson Mnangagwa were to emerge as the leader for the next 5 years, his difficult task is to lead a divided nation. So what we are saying as the Zimbabwe Communist Party is that there must be a way of healing our nation. There must be a way of uniting our nation. The only way you can do that, in our view, is to reach out to the opposition and begin to say, how do we work together to reconstruct our economy? Because you cannot have a situation where our economy continues to go down, or supposedly the courts were to say, let's have a rerun or a runoff of the elections. Our fear is that we are going back to 2008. We are going to see blood on the floor. There's going to be violence. Or if the court were to accede to the request by the leader of the opposition, Advocate Nelson Chamisa, to say he should be declared as a winner, again, he's going to lead a divided nation. So this is why, in our view, we are saying we must find a way of uniting our nation. And the only way to unite our nation is for both Emmerson Mnangagwa and Nelson Chamisa to reach out to each other.
And the elections this year were marred by violence, as you also had mentioned. But now, currently on this day, what is the mood like? As we know that the opposition has filed papers at the Constitutional Court.
Everyone is anxious to know what will happen in the courts. The opposition supporters in the opposition would want to see a reversal of the declaration by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, which declared President Emmerson Mnangagwa as the president-elect. Supporters of the ruling party would want to see the courts upholding the declaration by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. This is why we're saying our nation is divided.
And what more needs to be done in Zimbabwe to make sure that the heritage as well as the history is known, especially about where they come from and what the heroes did for the country?
What needs to be done, as we are saying, is that our fathers, our brothers fought for the liberation of Zimbabwe, where no one will be oppressed in our country. They will not be happy to see the country in the manner in which it is being governed today. So what you need to do, firstly, in our view, it is difficult to expect that the military that rolled its tanks in the streets of Harare in November would conduct a democratic election, an outcome of an election which is going to be accepted. This is why today we have a dispute, because there's no way in the world that those that stage a coup would negotiate themselves out of power. This is why we're making this call as communists to say the only way to unite our nation is firstly and foremost for the major parties to unite. And this calls on Emmerson Mnangagwa and Nelson Chamisa as leaders of these major political parties to reach out. And in our view, once that happens, we are then beginning to travel on the economic recovery.
And how did Zimbabwe Communist Party celebrate this day?
Well, we didn't really have celebrations in terms of activities, but we honor those that fought in the liberation struggle, as we said in our statement that we released today, and we honor ordinary Zimbabweans that fought gallantly for our independence, and we made a call that for us in Zimbabwe we need peace, and we are calling on the two contending parties, ZANU-PF and the MDC alliance, to respect the outcome of the Constitutional Court, and also for the two leaders to reach out to each other. As the Zimbabwe Communist Party, we are ready to assist where possible, if it means us engaging Emmerson Mnangagwa, if it means us engaging Nelson Chamisa, if that will bring unity in our country, this is the path that we are prepared to travel.
And looking at the next coming years, how more effective can you make the celebrations of Heroes Day for everybody to actually know that there is such a thing called as Heroes Day in Zimbabwe?
People will not celebrate if they are hungry. So the first important thing that one has to do is to ensure that there is economic growth, young people are employed, you reduce the percentage of those that are in the informal sector. You ensure that you create conditions so that those that are in the diaspora return back to Zimbabwe to develop our country. So unless and you address the economic fundamentals, there's no way that people will celebrate, because if you speak to ordinary people, they are saying, what is there to celebrate? When we go and vote, our vote does not count and the election gets stolen. What is there to celebrate when we are unemployed? What is there to celebrate when we are threatened with arrest in South Africa, deported to Lindela and so forth, because we are not documented? So if people have all these challenges, they don't see the need to celebrate. So the only way to celebrate and for us to continue to celebrate in the years to come is to make Zimbabwe to what it was in 1980.
Well, thank you, sir, for coming in to studio and sharing this discussion with us. That was Nqabutho Mabhena, the General Secretary of the Zimbabwe Communist Party. As we know that today the Zimbabweans are celebrating National Heroes Day, and while giving the keynote address in Harare, President Emmerson Mnangagwa said the occasion provides an opportunity to reflect back and pay special tribute to fallen heroes, those who fought for the independence of Zimbabwe. And he also urged the citizens to remain united and be in the line with the national vision to become a middle-income economy and increase investment. He also urged Zimbabweans to put their differences aside and work collectively to achieve the vision, which will also pave a way for job creation. And the president's call comes amid an election standoff, which has halted his inauguration ceremony. And we know that on Friday, the opposition filed court papers challenging the July 30th poll, which the MDC alliance believes was rigged. And that's all we have time for here on Africa Tonight. From Milese Homokonane and the rest of the team, good night.